Welcome back, Sebastian here. So today I want to talk about who will be F1's next new world champion. So of course, at this point in the season, we're in the middle of our fall break. Max Verstappen is still leading the F1 championship by 50 or so odd points. Lando Norris, at this point, outside chance of the title, but still has not won that title. So of course, can still be on this board. And of course, before this season, we had 3 straight years of Verstappen championships, and before that, I believe, what was it, 4 straight years of Hamilton championships. So basically, for the last 7 years or so, we've had only 2 different world champions, and it really feels like 2025 could be an excellent opportunity for us to have our next new world champion, assuming Max Verstappen does indeed close this out and does win this year's championship as well. I think, in any kind of discussion at this point, talking about, future world champions, who's going to be the next new world champion, I think it really comes down to these 4 drivers. We're going to go, I've ranked them, or I've listed them on the board here in order of current championship standing. So this isn't the order that I think they'll win in or who's most likely or anything like that, just the current championship order. So we're starting at the top with Lando Norris. Currently 24 years of age, going to turn 25 quite soon. This is his 6th season F1. All of them have been with McLaren, of course. And over that span, he's gotten 912 points. Second highest total on the board here, of course, below Leclerc, but understandable given the first, I would say, 4 years of that, he was never really in a front-running car. But that being said, he's racked up 24 podiums to date. 3 wins, all of them this year, as well as 6 pole positions, 5 of those coming this year, and one of them, of course, the first one came in 2021. His highest career championship position to date is 6, but of course I put a red dot there because he is, of course, on pace to definitely finish much higher than 6 this year. The last 2 columns I'll get to in a bit later, but let's next move on to Charles Leclerc. Of course, driving for Ferrari, he's driven for Ferrari every season since his rookie season in 2018, where he of course drove for Sauber. 26 years of age, again another red dot, late birthday, so he'll have his birthday I think in the next week or so, turning 27 very soon, so I guess early happy birthday to you, Charles Leclerc. This is his 7th season in F1, and career points 1,319. Generally has driven for better cars, I would say, than Lando Norris, with the exception of his rookie season in the Sauber and that god-awful 2020 Ferrari. The cars that Leclerc's driven have been pretty good. 39 not 39 pole positions. Honestly, the pole position stat's pretty close, but 39 podiums, 7 wins, and of course a whopping 26 pole positions. So pole to win conversion ratio, not great, but still, he is a prolific qualifier. Highest championship position to date is 2nd. I didn't even mention when Norris's was, but Norris's was, I believe, last year was that highest championship position. And for Leclerc, 2nd, of course, that was in 2022, just holding off Sergio Perez at the end there. Next, Oscar Piastri, I believe 4th in the championship right now. He, of course, is the youngest driver on the board, 23 years of age, and he's also the least experienced. 2nd year in F1, of course, both of those being with McLaren. But that being said, in a year and 3 quarters, he has racked up 334 points. Not bad. 9 podiums as well, 2 wins, but does not yet have a pole position. Highest championship position, of course, that was last year, his rookie season, which was 9th. And again, 4th in the championship right now. Almost certainly guaranteed to be better than 9th, if not guaranteed mathematically to be better than that this year. And then 4th driver that we have on the board, George Russell, 26 years of age, 6th season F1, so same as Lando Norris. He, of course, spent the first 3 years of his career driving for a very, very poor Williams team. First 2 years, they scored 1 point total combined, and that was, of course, Robert Kubica's point at the 2019 German Grand Prix. A bit of a better final year at Williams, a bit of luck involved in that as well, but still, that car was better, and Russell could score points on merit at some rounds. 624 points, which again, higher only than Piastri, and again, Piastri's already gotten almost over half of Russell's career total in, again, less than 2 seasons. But Russell had such a poor car those first 3 years. It's not really a comparative statistic, I would say. Of course, and then after those 3 years at Williams, got the promotion to Mercedes, where he's been ever since. 14 podiums, 2 wins, and 3 podium positions are his career stats to date. Highest championship position, 4th, so that was in 2022. A very, very good year for Russell. Did have a little bit of luck at the beginning of the season, but nonetheless, it was a good year from him. So there you go. There's our 4 drivers and kind of just their career stats to date. All of them are pretty similar in age. Really, you have Leclerc, the oldest, at 27, Piastri, the youngest, 23. Again, so all of those drivers are really within 4 years of age. And in terms of experience, it's a similar situation. Piastri, least experienced. This is his 2nd season versus Leclerc, most experienced at 7 seasons. I think really any kind of conversation about, who do you think is going to be the next world champion, it really has 2 different, I think, big factors. One of them is how good you think that driver is, in qualifying, how good you think that driver is in races, how well you think that driver is going to would be able to hold up to the pressure of being in a championship challenge. And then the other side of that is, of course, the car, and you obviously have to be in a very, very good car to be able to compete for a championship. Most of these guys, I think, would have never been in, with the exception of the 2 McLarens this year. I don't think any of the drivers on the board have really been in a car capable of challenging for a championship at any point in their career. Leclerc as well for basically a half to a third of the 2022 season, but really for most of them, they haven't really had that opportunity year in, year out in the way that drivers like Lewis Hamilton or drivers like Max Verstappen have had at this point in their respective careers. So I think first I want to talk about this side of the board, and then we'll talk about the cars, because that's, I think, a little bit more speculative. So of course, as you know, I like to create my own statistics, like to create my own data models, and so these are 2 of them here, and I think this is the first time I've actually shown these specific numbers on the boards. But basically what I try to do is I try to rank every full-time driver in F1, and again, for both models, it's from 2008 to 2023, so it would cover basically the start and up to the present of all of these drivers' career. And basically, I use a matrix system to try to put all the drivers together, use different parameters as well to kind of correct for things like age and experience, that kind of thing. It's not perfect, but it is interesting to look at. So for the race model ranking, Lando Norris is currently ranked 2nd. I say currently because it changes every year as you get a new year of data. But Lando Norris ranked 2nd, which again, highest of all these drivers on the board. Charles Leclerc ranks 4th. So again, both drivers very, very high in that. Then you have Oscar Piastri, who after 1 year was already ranked 10th on the board. 10th of all drivers all full-time drivers since 2008. And then George Russell's actually worst of the 4 drivers for the race data model at 13th. And again, just as for full clarity, part of the reason that Lando Norris is ranked so high is because he did such a good job against Daniel Ricciardo for that 2-year period at McLaren. Because for Ricciardo's career as a whole, still a very, very good driver. That of course means that if you do that well against X driver, you're obviously very, very good as well. And of course for Piastri, his only teammate in F1 to date is Norris, so of course if Norris is ranked pretty high, then that kind of will determine where Piastri slots in as well. But besides, I think I would say Norris and Piastri a little bit high, but that being said, the fact that Leclerc is 4th, he's had 3 different teammates in F1, I do think his race pace is a little bit underrated just because he has so many more pole positions than he does have wins. And it's just that the reality is that the Ferraris that he's driven for the majority of his career, I think, have, for whatever reason, been much better in qualifying than they have in the race. If I were to try to rank these 4 drivers right now based on their race ability, their ability on a Sunday, I think I would probably rank Leclerc 1st. I would put Norris 2nd, Piastri 3rd, and then I would actually put Russell 4th. I do think Russell, his race pace, I don't think the race pace is bad, but I do think that he does have a tendency to sometimes be in incidents. And the fact is, I think, Lewis Hamilton is either equal or slightly better than him on Sundays, despite the fact that he is, really in the back three, I would say, of his career. I know it's saying it's a back nine, but I think for Hamilton, going on 40 next year, I believe, I think he only has a couple more years left. And for Russell, I don't think the race pace, plus the fact that he sometimes gets involved in incidents and stuff, I think is a little bit below the quality of Norris, Leclerc, and Piastri. Now, moving on to the qualifying model, and I'll say again, there's a bit of an issue with the qualifying model, not necessarily in the data, but in the way that there's one parameter, one kind of thing that I do that I'm not super happy with, and again, it will be changed before next year, but it leads to the one outlier that we have here. So for the, again, ranking from 2008-2023, exact same method, Lando Norris ranks 3rd, Charles Leclerc ranks 13th, Oscar Piastri ranks 9th, and George Russell ranks 8th. So again, the guy with the highest amount of pole positions on this board, ranking 13th, the lowest of the 4 drivers, does seem quite weird, and I definitely do agree. There's one particular node where it, basically the relationship between Leclerc, Ericsson, and Kamui Kobayashi, because those two pairs of drivers, 3 drivers two of them have been teammates with each other, and again, it leads to some issues, but that's something I'm going to plan to fix. Again, I don't need to really discuss that here. But again, interesting to see that 3 of the 4 all end up in the top 10, and then you again have Leclerc a little bit on the outside. So again, all 4 of these drivers, very, very good qualifiers. But that being said, if I were to rank them in terms of qualifying ability right now, I would say Leclerc definitely first. And then after that, I think you have a very, very close second place between Norris and Russell. I think I'm actually... who would I choose? If I had to choose one qualifier between Norris and Russell, who would I choose? Oh, that's a tough one. I think I'm going to go with Norris, but I think Russell is also very, very close behind him. And then I would put Piastri in 4th. I think we have enough data between Norris and Piastri in qualifying, and the fact that, again, Piastri is the only driver on this board with no pole positions. And again, this year, Norris has 5 pole positions, Piastri again has 0. So I think just, talking about the drivers as a whole, who I think, in terms of just driving ability, if you put all these 4 drivers in equal cars next year, who do I think wins? I would say right now, Leclerc probably wins that. I think between the combination of qualifying ability and again, racecraft, race pace, which I think is a little bit underrated, I do think he would be a bit better than Lando Norris in, equal cars, equal machinery. But that being said, Oscar Piastri's improved so much this year compared to his rookie season. How much more is he going to improve next year? And that's, again, a big question. But again, I think I would probably have Norris first, I'd have Leclerc first, Norris second. I'm going to put Piastri ahead of Russell, but very, very close between those 2 as well. So again, I think just in terms of who I think is in the best form, who has the best chances in terms of driver ability, I think Leclerc has what it takes to be the next world champion. But again, like I mentioned before, I kind of got into that kind of very boring spiel about drivers and numbers and stuff. There's again one more really important point to this part of this conversation. That is, of course, the car. McLaren have the best car in F1 at the moment. They've had the best car for, I'd say, the last 10 races, I would say, is probably a fair guess. And again, looking ahead to 2025, if I had to do preseason predictions for 2025 right now, I would probably choose one of the McLaren drivers to be world champion. I don't know which one I would choose at this point, but again, it would be a McLaren driver. That being said, so I think, talking with that in mind, if you say McLaren are probably going to be the best car for come 2025, then I think you'd say realistically, Lando Norris has an excellent chance of being the next world champion. But that being said, I wouldn't count Oscar Piastri out as well. If Ferrari can get their act together and be in a competitive championship in the same vein as 2007, 2008, again, McLaren versus Ferrari, a very, very historic rivalry, I honestly think Leclerc could pull it off. Although again, Lewis Hamilton will be a new driver coming into that team. He would definitely be a factor in that championship as well. And as for George Russell, I think realistically the Mercedes isn't really on the pace of those other two cars, or even on the Red Bull, I would argue. But for example, let's say Max Verstappen wins this year. He also wins 2025 by some miracle. If Mercedes can get things right in 2026, I think there's no reason that George Russell could not be the first driver from this group of four to be world champion in that situation, given that his teammate is going to be so young and still quite inexperienced at that point in time. So again, it's a bit of an interesting conversation, and because Verstappen's had so many years of dominance up to this point, you have four drivers who I think are all kind of in the prime of their careers, and they're definitely very hungry to be the next new world champion in Formula One. Of course, 2024 season isn't finished yet. Lando Norris could still win. Charles Leclerc, I guess, could win. Same with Oscar Piastri, but both of them are definitely very much long shots for the 2024 title. But let me know your thoughts as well. Who do you think will be the next new F1 champion? Could it be a driver not even on the board? I would have had Carlos Sainz potentially on this as well, but with him going to Williams next year, I think realistically he's not going to be able to compete for a championship anytime soon. Could it be Andrea Kimi Antonelli, a guy who I don't even have on the board, a guy who hasn't even made his F1 debut yet? He of course will be going into Mercedes next year. Again, very, very good team, very good seat, but being so young, being so inexperienced, I think realistically it's too early to be talking about him as a future world champion in the same vein as these other four drivers. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.